we would update you on the horrible set of events that occurred yesterday with our murder investigation whenever we got them sorted out. So today we have them sorted out as best that we know today after talking to our witness who is a victim who is with us. Of course, anything we say in this investigation is based upon the current information we have, and let me underscore it's subject to change. This is one of the more bizarre cases we've had in quite a while. It's not only bizarre, but it's one of the more tragic cases we've had in a while. And let me tell you what we know based upon our witness information and the evidence we saw at the scene. This started early in the morning yesterday when Taiwan Blandin, he's a black male, 30 years of age, 6 foot and 190 pounds, arrived at our victim's house in Fort Meade. He broke into the house while she was asleep. When he woke her up, she looked, and there he stood, nude in front of her, totally naked. And he said he was going to sexually batter her. She said, "No, you're not." And he subsequently pulled a knife out and held it to her throat and made her perform sex on him. He rounded up 4 firearms from the residence as well, 2 handguns and 2 rifles. Then he wrapped her wrist and her ankles together. He bound her, hogtied her, wrapped her in a blanket, and put her in the back seat of his car. And then he jumped in the front seat of the car, which is now positioned in back of her residences, and took off. She said, "We left Fort Meade and we went toward Frostproof." And she said before we got to Highway 27, he turned on some dirt roads that she didn't recognize. And she made one turn and another turn and another turn, and he stopped at a dirt path. When he stopped at the dirt path, he jumped out, opened a gate, and drove in a dirt path and then around behind some bushes to a mobile home. The mobile home wasn't visible from the road. She said, all the while I'm trying to get free because he's got me bound up, cinched up. She said, when we get here, he jumps out of the car, goes to the front door of the mobile home, and knocks on the door. She said, elderly lady came to the door with white hair. They had a conversation, and he went into the residence with her. She said, by this time, I'm out. I hop over the front seat of the car from where he has me in the back seat of the car, and I take off back toward Fort Meade. She said, I don't have my cell phone. He's taken that from me. He has it in his pocket. So I drive back to Fort Meade, and I pull into the neighbor's yard across the street from where I live in order to use the telephone. And she said it wasn't but a minute later, he pulls in, driving the vehicle, the red van that I saw at the house, at the other victim's house, the murder victim's house. Of course, we don't know there's a murder victim at the time, and neither does she. He jumps out of the car and he starts shooting at her, and she starts running. While he's shooting at her, he shoots an 81-year-old lady sitting in her wheelchair. It hits her in the foot. He jumps back into his vehicle that we gave you yesterday, the 2011 Chevy Cruze with a tag number NAGK37, and he takes off. He's still at large today. Our detectives arrive at the scene, and we're trying to figure out what's going on because she's injured. She has fallen down, skinned herself up, injured her foot, trying to get away from him, and we've got an 81-year-old woman with a gunshot wound. As our deputies are starting to sort out this information, she says, "I know who he is. He went to school with my boyfriend, and my boyfriend's known him for years and years and years and years," and gives us the name. We get the information from the vehicle because she doesn't know where she's been when they went down these dirt roads, but we get the address from the vehicle. We send deputies to the house. When our deputies arrive at the house, we go into the house because now there's smoke in the house where he's tried to set the house on fire. And we find our other victim, who is 80 years of age, and she's shot twice. He shot her in the stomach, shot her down, and then he shot her in the head and executed her. After he executed her, he piled plastic bottles and some kind of cloth on top of the stove, turned the stove on in an effort to set the mobile home on fire. As we arrived at the scene, we saw a blood trail that came out of the house, and we saw a big patch of blood on the ground, and we go, where did that come from? How does that fit into this? Did our suspect, Taiwan, did he get injured during this event? But what we discovered through our investigation is that he not only shot and murdered this 80-year-old woman in her home, she was holding her baby, her 10-year-old dog, Kelly. We have Kelly with us today. Kelly survived the shooting, but Kelly has a broken foot and lacerations from where the bullet that entered our victim also went through Kelly. And the blood we found outside was Kelly's blood. And we not only found the blood from where he had laid down, but then we found him over underneath some bushes. And of course, we sent him out to animal control, and he is under care of the vet and will be returned to the family. It's been a long time since I've seen an absolute total disregard for life. But Taiwan Blandin, for whatever reason, and we do not know what that reason is, went on a killing spree and a sexual battery spree yesterday. He's still at large. We don't know where he is. We had information that he was in Lakeland and then he was in Winter Haven. The last information we developed is that he is in the vicinity, or was in the vicinity, of Macon, Georgia. So we've trailed him out of the state. Doesn't mean he's still out of the state. We don't know where he is. But here's what I want to make perfectly clear, and we have to our law enforcement colleagues across the Southeast as we sent information out. He had conversations yesterday with his sister, who is a good person, with his brother, who I can testify is a good person because he's a bailiff of ours. He said, I don't want the cops to attempt to find me. He said, if they do, I'm going to kill myself, or he would face them and shoot the cops or shoot himself. He's dangerous. When a man quits caring about himself and is ready to commit suicide, when he's ready to commit suicide by a cop, or said that if the cops come to me, I'm going to shoot them, we take him at face value. Our prayer is that he turns himself in. Our prayer is that if he doesn't turn himself in, that when we find him, he peaceably surrenders. But make no mistake about it. He has put us on notice that he is capable of killing himself or engaging us in a gunfight. And if he does not surrender peacefully and he points a gun at us, we will shoot him a lot. That's a promise. These law enforcement officers aren't going to hurt themselves or get hurt. Especially, it would be foolish for us not to be overtly cautious when he's told us this. We take him at face value. The investigation's ongoing. We're working with his family. I can tell you that his family certainly is concerned about his life, but they understand the peril that he poses to the community, to law enforcement officers, and they recognize the murderous rampage he engaged in yesterday. We are going to take him into custody. We are going to find him. Our hope is that he does not make one more last bad choice, but he allows us to take him into custody peacefully and bring him before the criminal justice system. But as long as he's out, he's a danger. Our 18-year-old victim of the original sexual battery is hidden. She is no longer at home. Certainly we are concerned about her welfare since she is a victim and a witness and alive and physically well. We're concerned about her, and she is staying at an undisclosed location. Before I move on to our second case, we'll answer any questions you may have about this one.
Sheriff, neighbors have told us that Mr. Blandin grew up in that neighborhood in Frostproof. Is that
Fort Meade.
in Fort Meade? You were told in Frostproof, and then
No, he grew.
what is his connection then with the victim in Frostproof?
We don't know the connection in Frostproof yet. Early information, and I underscore early information, is at some point in time his dad may have lived on a street behind the victim and had a lawn care business, and it's possible, this is one version of what we're hearing, that he may have done some yard work for the victim at some point in time in the past. I can't solidify that absolutely, but that's the best case information that we have right now.
Are you able to release the victim's name?
You know, I would love to, but we're dealing with this newfound Marsy's Law. So I won't officially release the name today.
Can you tell us the age?
I can tell you that one victim is 18, our homicide victim is 80, and the attempted murder victim is 81. I can tell you that these are wonderful folks living in small, safe, wonderful communities, and it should have never happened to them. It should never happen to anyone. But this is like the last place in the world you would ever expect a murderous rampage.
Any idea what set him off yesterday?
Absolutely no idea what set him off, why he did this. Absolutely no idea. We have one witness. We have a lot of physical evidence, but no reason in the world for this. You can imagine the horror when she wakes up out of a dead sleep early yesterday morning to see this naked man who is a friend of her husband, standing over her bed with rape on his mind.
Had she ever seen him before?
She knew him, yes.
She knew him?
Well, it's Fort Meade. It's a small community. Everybody knows everybody in Fort Meade. That's the beauty of small town. So it's never been a question from the very first communication with her. This is our suspect. And we've talked to people in the community that said he was a wonderful young man when he's a child, but he's changed all that. He's been to state prison. He's not only been to state prison, he's got 11 previous felony charges, I think 20 misdemeanor charges. Not that I want to have an editorial comment, but you know I will do that. You know, we've got people thinking this criminal justice system's too tough. He's only been to state prison once for armed robbery for about 6 years. But he's had like 20 or 30 criminal charges. So I want the legislators who think we ought to let more criminals out of jail to think that again after hearing about this today.
The sexual battery victim, was she raped? Or he was attempting to do that?
He attempted to sexually batter her and engaged her in forced oral sex with a knife to her throat.
What did he use to bind her?
Some, as it's described to us, camouflage cord.
That he brought with him?
It was at the residence.
And as far as that woman, did she know that he was attracted to her, or he just randomly broke in her house?
She woke up to him standing over her bed without any clothes on. It was a horrific event, as described to us by our victim. She spent many hours with us yesterday, giving us minute details of what occurred. And we have no reason not to believe everything she's told us at this point in the investigation. And then, if you can imagine, we have an 80-year-old lady who used to be a teacher, way out in the country, off a little dirt road, holding her baby when she's shot down and murdered. That just doesn't happen in real America, unless you've got an evil person running wild for whatever reason we can't explain.
Is the community safe? Sheriff, you want to tell people to lock their doors, be on the lookout for this guy?
We have no idea where he is. The last we knew, he was around up in Georgia. That doesn't mean he's in Georgia now. But the manhunt is on, and will not stop until we find him.
How has he been able to escape you all? A lot of people in the community are surprised.
He's not here where he's recognized, so we're having to chase him. So we'll find him. There won't be much more freedom for him. We will find him. If not today, tomorrow, but we'll look for him around the clock until we find him. But once again, if he stayed in the Fort Meade area, we would have had him. He's left the area of where he's known, at least the latest information that we have.
Have you guys been able to find his vehicle yet? I mean,
The last we know, he's still in his vehicle. The red 2011 Chevy Cruze, tag number NAG K37. Okay.